welcome to another Raid Shadow Legends video. I'm IceMan, and today we're going to be doing another champion guide video. This time it's going to be on Hegemon. I mentioned him in my previous video and covered some of his gear and stuff. Anybody who's watched that will look at this and think, well, you've not really done much with him. True, I haven't. Mainly because what improvements I would make would actually put him up to 6 star. And obviously for the case of this video, I wanted to leave him at a lower state. So I have improved his boots. That's about it really. I didn't actually really have a better weapon. I wanted to get his crit rate up and keep his crit rate up. And if I change the weapon out, I actually lose too much of that. So it needs a complete rework. I definitely need more silver again. I'm always needing more silver. That's the one thing I really hate about this game. Everything in it costs silver. You want to increase potions, silver. You want to remove gear, silver. You want to level gear, silver. And you know, you don't get enough silver for what you do in the game and the amount of hours you put into it to keep on top of it, to be fair. As somebody who plays for hours and hours a day, God knows how a free-to-play person who doesn't have as much energy, doesn't have the same sort of time to devote to the game, God knows how they manage. You know, if you get a few champions and you want to gear stuff and everything, you're constantly running out of silver. Anyway, that's not what we're here for. We're not here to have a gripe about the fact that players need to do something about their silver issues. We are here to cover Hegemon. So, Hegemon is a Void champion with the Knights Revenant faction. He's an attack-based champion, and quite frankly, he's absolutely amazing. If you have managed to pull him in the more recent Void pulls, or any Void pulls to be fair, chances are if you're looking this video up, if you're trying to look this champion up, you've just pulled him in a 2x Void or something along those lines. He is a brilliant champion. Now, let's actually start with his skills. So, we've got Grave's Grasp. He attacks 2 times at random. Each hit has a 35% chance of placing a 30% decreased speed debuff for 2 turns. It takes 5 books and can be booked from 35 to a 55% chance of placing that debuff. This ability, being a 2-hitter and a decreased speed, actually does make him somewhat viable for the Fire Knight. Now, he can be useful on the waves depending on how you build him and what you want to build him for, but we'll get into that in a minute. His A2, now this is his big money ability, sort of. Attacks all enemies, places a 50% decreased attack debuff for 2 turns. Also has a 50% chance of placing a block cooldown skills debuff for 2 turns. Damage is based on attack. All his damage is based on attack. This takes 4 books. You're only increasing damage. Legendary books are hard to come by. Personally, I wouldn't bother if I could help it. This guy can actually be run very successfully, quite frankly, without books. That's one of the great things about him. He'll be very usable for you, even without putting those books in, and that is just great. So, what does that mean? Well, basically, obviously, he attacks all enemies. He places a 50% decreased attack for 2 turns, so that helps keep your team alive. It means that the enemies are not going to be dealing as much damage. The block cooldown skills debuff for 2 turns basically locks everybody out and makes it so they can only use their A1. Now, this is huge, absolutely huge, and it's the main reason that I think he's amazing. Coupled with his passive, since he doesn't technically have an A3, he has 2 attack abilities and a passive. His passive, Fateful Arrival, always goes first each round. If multiple Hegemons are in battle, the Hegemon with the highest speed will move first, followed by the next highest, and so on. Now, I tend to try and avoid fighting other Hegemons if I can help it, because I haven't built him for speed. To be fair, I've not built him as high as I could do, and I need to look at his workaround and how I've built him out. And after this guide, I wanted to keep him as is. I wanted to keep him at a fairly steady level, and this is the level I've been using him at. In fact, I've been using him slightly less because I've just swapped out his boots for slightly faster boots. He was slightly worse than this, and I've been using him for a couple of months and with great success. So basically what this means is, in the arena, you're going to go first. Obviously, each arena fight technically counts as 1 round, so it's not like each turn you're going to get to go first. This is each round. That is very important to notice this. It means in the arena you'll go first at the start and only at the start. But in dungeons, for each round of mobs you're facing, each wave, and the boss, you're going to go first. this is both a blessing and a curse with him. Yes, he's got the benefit to lock people out and do damage and stuff and go first, but it also means he can't benefit from decreased defense or increased attack, which, you know, it's a bit of a pain, but it's not the end of the world. To be fair, I think he's mainly his main use is for the arena anyway, and that's really the only place I do use him. If he's one of your only legendaries and you want to use him other places, he's certainly a very capable champion that can do other areas. So his aura increase ally crit rate in all battles by 19%. So the handy thing there is, this isn't one I tend to build for. I tend to try and build all my champions up as close to 100 as I can and get more useful auras in there. But if you are struggling to get your champions to 100% crit rate, by all means, build them with nearly 20% lower crit rate, put him in the lead, and they're all going to be at 100. I said nearly, not quite 20% lower. Bear that in mind. 19. So you want him, you want everybody at, like, say, 81. And then he'll do the rest for you. So it's still handy, it is really useful. We'll go on to gear first, because your masteries are somewhat dependent on your gear and how you're using them. So we'll start off with the banner. Now, his main focus for me, particularly in arena, is to go first and to use that A2 to lock people down. I want that cooldown skills on people. So I'm building him with as high accuracy as I can get. I will be soon swapping out this for a better piece of banner with more accuracy on it. But for the moment, it's been doing me fine. You know, I'm still at 322 accuracy, so he's doing very well. And he tends to land most of the time. Obviously, I've got him in a 4-star piece, a 4-star piece, a 5-star piece. None of the gear on him is 6-star. I made sure of that. I did have, in all honesty, if you've seen my previous video, you would have noticed that I did have a 6-star piece on his gloves and on his chest. And to be fair, after this video, I'll swap him back to that, because obviously I want him as good as I can get him. But for this video, I've swapped him out so that you can see what you can do with this sort of gear. The chest isn't even fully leveled up. I've intentionally done that because I'm not using it on a champion that I use as often. I'm not too fussed about wasting the silver and leveling it up to max. It's only on him for the purposes of this video. And as you'll see, it won't really affect the way I use him for what I use him for. So I've built him. He is a damage dealer. He can deal damage. For me, that's not his primary focus. So with the neck, you could go one of two routes. You could argue that in the arena, if you're going for a nuking team, you want him fast. And you want, well, you don't necessarily want him fast, but you definitely want him powerful and strong and hitting as hard as you can. At which point, you're going to focus a lot more on crit damage, attack, crit rate, getting all that stuff right. For me, I'm using him as a debuffer, primarily. That, for me, is his primary use. And I run a team that is a bit slower and designed to take a bit longer. I enjoy playing that way. I don't mind quick fights, but I find them a bit dull personally. I've now got Arbiter. I've got some champs. I've got some decent gear on. I could run a faster team. I enjoy running a slow, steady strat that quite often does me rather well. So what that means is it means he tends to get more than one go. Whereas if you're running a nuke strat, you're not going to get that. If you're running that sort of strat, you could argue going defensive here to try and keep him alive longer, so that he cycles back round to his A2 again. Personally, I've gone for a sort of hybrid. I want him dealing damage, I want his accuracy very high, but I'm not as focused on keeping him alive as much as I can. But again, I've got Arbiter in my team, so she tends to pick him up when he goes down anyway. Unless he gets block revived, of course. The ring, again, at the moment, he's attack with some defensive stats on it. That was the best I had at the time when I equipped him. Now I would swap that out for attack with some defense stats. I want to start improving his damage. Speed boots, I personally just pretty much always stick champions in speed boots. You know, very few champions benefit so little from speed that you want to stick them in anything else. And I've always found it really hard to build enough speed into champions without speed boots. Some people manage it, but I've tried once or twice, and I think about the fastest I managed to get a champion was 180 something, which just wasn't good enough. I wasn't happy with it. Attack chest, crit rate gloves. The stats I'm focusing on are obviously accuracy, crit damage, crit rate, speed, and attack. Fair few stats there, I know. Now, as you'll see, I've got him in a stun set. I've done this very intentionally. Because I'm using him first, and my main aim for him is to debuff the team and lock them out so that they can't go, I feel that putting him in a stun set really helps with that. Because you've got that 18% chance, although it's not high, you've still got that 18% chance that he's going to place a stun debuff. First move he does is an AoE, so if he doesn't lock them out, he may well stun them, which still then helps your champions come in and clean up and do their work. Later on in the fight, even when he's using his A1, he quite often gets, his A1 hits 2 people as well, so it's still half of the team, and quite often I get stuns off of that A1, so that really helps. So obviously he's based on being accurate, he's based on stunning people, keeping them out of the fight, and that's how I use him in a nutshell, basically. With that being said, how you build him very much depends on how you're going to use him. That's true for most champions, but very specifically with Hegemon. Now, because I'm using him as a debuffer, I have him running with a lot of accuracy. So if we take a look at his masteries, I've gone down the support tree and the offense tree. The support tree, I've gone with accuracy into more accuracy. We've got Evil Eye to decrease turn meter because he's being used in the arena. Cycle of Magic has a 5% chance of decreasing the cooldown of a random skill by 1 turn at the start of every turn. It just means that there's a chance that he's going to get the A2 back quicker, which, you know, is what we want him for. It's really going to help. I've gone for Master Hexer because he does put some debuffs out there, obviously decrease speed, and this can make it last for longer. And then I've gone down into Eagle Eye for the extra 50 accuracy because I want him being as accurate as I can get him. Now on the offense side, we've gone obviously for the basic crit rate, into crit damage, increases damage for people under shields because obviously you do find a lot of people under shields in the arena. For me, this is kind of a fairly standard arena battle damage setup. So what I've gone for is increases speed for enemies killed, increases damage for the first hit on an enemy, has a 30% chance of decreasing the cooldown of a random skill by 1 turn if the damage inflicted exceeds 30% of the target's max HP. Admittedly, this doesn't almost ever happen or even have a chance of happening because on mine he's not built for enough damage to do that. But obviously I've still built him for damage. I could almost argue going in for this. Increases damage with targets with Sleep Fear and all that. So that might actually be a better one for me, to be fair, because I'm not proccing that as often, and that'll just increase his damage. Then obviously increases damage inflicted by 4% for each debuff on this champion, stacks up to 12%. Again, because he's in the arena, there's a good chance he's going to have a lot of debuffs on him, so that one can be quite useful there. If you are using him, let's say he's one of your earliest champions, and you've only got him and maybe one other legendary or something, so you want to be using him in dungeons and all the rest of it. Can he do it? Yes. He can actually be a fairly respectable campaign farmer, certainly up to Brutal, which is, let's face it, where most of us farm. You build him with enough speed. The speed is actually not as important, if at all, really, because obviously he goes first every turn anyway. So, but where the speed can be important is if you're not doing enough damage to kill all the enemies, you actually need him to cycle twice for each one to be an arena, sorry, a campaign farmer. So then you really need to get his speed up above sort of 210-ish, I think it is. And you obviously want his crit damage and crit rate really high if you're going to use him in that sort of scenario. Again, if you're going to use him in dungeons, I don't personally. Mine is not set up to deal that much damage, so I wouldn't really get any benefit out of it other than a bit of a debuffer, which for me just does not suit. On my account, I've got other people that fill that role quite happily. But if he's all you've got, again, he'll go first in each turn, so bear that in mind though, he's not going to get the benefit of decreased attack. He's not going to get the, increased attack, he's not going to get the benefit of decreased defense. I mean, he might do if he's up for a couple of turns. So on his first turn he won't, but on his second turn he will. But I'll bear that in mind, that's because he's going first every time, that's just always going to be the case. So I'm not going to show him in any dungeons because I don't use him in any dungeons. Can he be used in dungeons? Yes, I've seen other videos. Most recently, I believe, Cold Brew did a guide on him, and he uses him in Ice Golem or something like that. So, you know, can it be done? Yes. Can it be done effectively? Yes, to a degree. Again, it's very dependent on what champions you've got on your thing. Now, obviously, if you are building him for damage and you're building him to use in dungeons, you are maybe not going to want to go for the accuracy so much, and you're going to want to come down into Flawless Execution or Helm Smasher. Personally, I'm not as big a fan of Helm Smasher. I tend to usually run Flawless Execution, so that's what I would probably go for if I was using him in that environment. Again, if you can get enough accuracy on his gear, you can still go that route and do more damage anyway, even for the arena. So that's his skills, that's his masteries. Like I say, he can do dungeons, he can do campaign farming. I thought I'd give it a try and see if he could do the campaign, and he managed to do 12-3, but it wasn't overly quick because mine's not built to do it. As I say, if you're going to use him for those sort of areas, you need to build him for those sort of areas. That's the only thing. So what we will showcase is where I think he's best suited for. Maybe it'll load up. And that is in the arena. Anyway, we'll do what I usually do. We'll start off fresh. Obviously, I could very easily win this one. That's a bit over the top. Again, this team's much lower than me. He's not going to be faster than me. It's not a prime example, but I will show you just what he can do. And so we will do this one quickly. I've got a funny feeling I've got one of those bot runs now where I've got basically a load of easy ones, but we'll see in a sec. So we'll set it on auto. He comes in first, he does his thing, he's locked out. Nobody actually. We should take this auto off auto, although their team power is low and their resistance is high. They're not in immunity gear. No, I don't get it. I mean, I know it's a percentage chance, and that's the thing. Sometimes RNG goes in your favour, sometimes it doesn't. So we'll just take this off. So this is the sort of team I run most of the time. To be fair, 90% of the time I would swap out Sinesha for Valkyrie. But obviously Sinesha does more damage than Valkyrie. But if I'm facing tougher teams that I'm a bit worried are going to be difficult, it's a long fight doing it that way, but I tend to win. Right, so here's one that's a bit higher than me. You know, you've got Silver Revives. You've got Ethos here for damage and whatnot, so we'll see how it goes. Now again, this is in gold 4, and he will happily help you farm gold 4. So again, we come in with his AE2 to start. Here you see we've gotten 2 lockdowns. No stuns yet, unfortunately, which is annoying, so I did want to showcase that. But again, that's the way of RNG. Now, I've got 2 options here, and this is the way I tend to run with him. And this is why I run the team I do. Hegemon's great, he comes in, he can lock out, sometimes he locks out all 4, it's great when it happens, it's fun. If he'd locked out all 4, on Warlord I'd automatically go for the shield and the block debuffs. because he's only locked out 2, and I don't want these people doing their moves, I've still got the option with Warlord as a backup of increasing the cooldowns and still keeping them only using their A1s, which is great. And to be fair, in this team, when I'm running Sinesha, even she can do that on a single target. So it makes it very hard for the enemy team to do any real damage to me when all they can do is use their A1s. It means, although I've just killed somebody, for the time being at least, Sil here can't revive anybody because she's locked out. And there we go, we've increased the cooldown again, so she's locked out for even longer. We'll just take her out. That's the only problem with my teams. But then I don't have any really good, big damage dealing champions on my account. Sinesha I need to build a bit better and I can get a bit more damage out of her. And she is reasonably good. But not as good as I'd like. And she's certainly not one of these champs that's doing, 40k nukes and stuff like that. I must admit I've got a Royal Guard that I'm thinking of having a play with. I can't remember who did it, but somebody did a recent video on Royal Guard showcasing what you could do with 2 of them. And that was quite fun. Now I don't have 2 of them, but I do have some facelesses that I could build up and use as well. So it's the sort of thing I'd like to give a try when I can get the gear together and have a run at. So let's try this one. Getting a higher team, much higher to be fair, but we'll give them a shot. Alright, so this time we've got them 2 lockouts, one for only 1 turn, which is annoying. But we've also got a stun, so you see again that's most of their team taken care of at this point. Our speed boost. I'm not going to lock out Arbiter just yet. If it's some damage out there. Now when the inside of your nose just gets a little bit tickling, there's nothing you can do about it. Right, so I may as well lock these 2 out now, but they're pretty much dead, as you can see. Although their player power was team power was quite a bit higher than mine, they were actually a rather easy beat. So anyway, we've done a few fights. You've seen the benefit of him, and that's really where the benefit comes in. He goes first, he locks people out, and then even throughout the fight, because of that stun set, he's got a chance of stunning. He can put out that decreased speed, which again helps in arena, it helps in dungeons. If you build him right, yes, he can do dungeons. Yes, he can be a farmer if you really want him to. He's a jack of all trades to a degree. He's no good in the clan boss. We'll say that straight out. But if you pulled him, he's an absolutely brilliant champ. He's well worth taking a 60, putting all his ascendancies on, getting him masteried up. You don't need books in him, although obviously books, if you've got books to spare, books will help with his damage, they'll help with his abilities, but it's not necessary, and he will be in your arena team for a good long time. And if he's not in your main arena team for whatever reason, because you just don't want him for some reason, he'll certainly do well in your 3v3, and he'll also help you quite nicely in the faction wars. So, all in all, he's an absolutely amazing champion. He's a great pull, one of the best out there. If you've got him, congratulations. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a like. Hit that thumbs up. Give me a subscribe. I'd love for you to come back and watch more of my content. Get notified when I release more videos. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.